This video is brought to you by the Deck of Many and their Heckna 5e playtest. Hello and welcome back to the Gallant Goblin. Today we're looking at the first book in the Devastation arc adventure path for Starfinder called Waking the Worldseed by Jenny Jarzabski, being released today. This is one of the most highly anticipated Starfinder adventure paths yet, as it's the first one to take characters all the way to level 20, so I'm sure it's going to be pretty epic in scope. Many thanks to Paizo for sending it to us to review. Devastation arc is a 3-book adventure path, starting with Waking the Worldseed here, followed by the Starstone Blockade by Eleanor Farron, and concluding with Dominion's End by Ron Lundeen. As always, for adventure reviews, the first part of our video here is going to be relatively, but not entirely, spoiler-free, so if you're intending to play this adventure path as a player, kind of tread lightly here. I'll give you a big spoiler warning about halfway through when we get to the GM only material. So let's dive in. As this adventure picks up at level 13, you can easily slot it in after some of the existing adventure paths that end at level 12, namely Dead Suns, Signal of Screams, Dawn of Flame, Attack of the Swarm, or the Threefold Conspiracy. Plot hooks are provided to bridge your characters over from one of those adventure paths to Devastation arc, or if you're planning to start fresh here with Devastation arc, there's a generic plot hook provided for you. This adventure will take players to the icy world of Jeterat, first introduced on page 465 of the core rulebook. Jeterat is a snow-covered world out in the vast that's been adopted by Abadar Corp and the New Horizons luxury retreats in the hopes of terraforming it into the galaxy's foremost winter resort. You may be familiar with New Horizons from the Signal of Screams adventure path. So, during the course of their terraforming activities, the scientists discovered a series of ancient ruins, which they've started to explore in the hopes of adding a bit of archaeological mystique to their alpine retreat, but of course they disturbed something in the underground structures that's now wreaking havoc on their equipment and causing some chaotic weather changes on the surface. So, Abadar Corp and New Horizons both have a lot to lose and are willing to pay top dollar to an elite group of adventurers or troubleshooters to go out and investigate the problem. The already established adventuring party is sent to the planet where they get a briefing on what's happening and they're able to pack up for their trek out into the raging blizzard and to the site of the ruins. The first part of the adventure has the party exploring the construction site and down into the underground ruins. There they learn the history of the facility and set into motion the events that will play out over the course of the adventure path. Depending on which adventure path, if any, the players had undertaken to get to level 13, the revelation of who built the Jeterat ruins could be quite shocking and exciting, but we'll talk more about that in the spoiler section in a moment. Without getting into too many other spoilers right now for the rest of the first book, I can say the second act of the story here begins with some good old-fashioned starship combat with the addition of some new mechanics tied to the unique terrain and weather of Jeterat, including a Star Wars-y canyon run. And most of the rest of the adventure involves a lot of delving into various ruins to learn a lot of interesting lore. Waking the Worldseed also includes some new alternative racial traits, though it's kind of a little spoilery for me to tell you which race they're for, so I'll save that for the spoiler section. And there's also some new augmentations, including a personal stasis unit, which allows you to quickly enter into a light sleep to avoid certain kinds of detection from evil, or into maybe a deep cryo-type sleep, which can last for years. There's also 2 new feats. The first one helps you push your way through debilitating conditions like confused or fascinated or fatigued or similar by spending a resolve point to delay the onset by a round. And the other new one gives you a bonus when you're interfacing with ancient technology like you do a lot in this adventure. As always, you have some new aliens to play around with, including a freaking death car. The Codex of Worlds introduces us to Quartrazar 4, I think it's pronounced, which is a dead world with a corrosive atmosphere that nonetheless has some mysterious alien ruins. There's evidence that the inhabitants of the world terraformed some of the other planets in their system, but they never colonized them. So it's an interesting little mystery there, and a world that you can incorporate into this story or maybe some other stories that you're telling. Finally, as is tradition, There's a new starship that's introduced on the inside covers. This time we have the stats and the deck plans for a luxury cruise liner used by New Horizons. If you really want to explore the organization that came to the forefront in that Signal of Screams adventure path. And now we venture into heavy spoilers. If you have any desire at all to play through this path, pause the video here, go down to the video description below, or use the fancy new embedded YouTube tools, and click the timestamp to jump to my final thoughts. If you're interested in GMing this adventure, the next part is for you. Last warning. Okay, this adventure reads like a natural sequel to Dead Suns, as it continues the story of the ancient conflict between the Kishali and the Civs. The Civs in particular are explored in this adventure path, as they are the ancient race behind the ruins on Jeddarat. Long story short, when the Kishali were busy developing their stellar degenerator to destroy the Civs were hard at work trying to find a way to survive. One Civ scientist, built a giant advanced scout ship and then a giant colony ship called the Worldseed, which could reestablish the race in another part of the galaxy should the worst come to pass. The Pact World's race, whose history is finally explored, is the Bantrids, the race that awoke about 5 years ago on a moon called Hib, which orbits the Pact World of Liavara. They had no memory of their past. Well, it turns out that they were a servitor race for the Civs. And Hib, well, that's no moon. That's the Civs' Worldseed. Those ruins on Jeddarat, that's where the Civ researchers were working on the project. When the scientists from Abador Corps went down in there and turned on the equipment, and then the adventuring party went down there and tinkered with it, it wakes up the Worldseed and that scout ship, and that's when all hell breaks loose. So in this book, the party explores the aforementioned ruins, and then a mysterious tower that erupts on the surface of Jeddarat. And the tower is what wakes up the Worldseed, also known as Hib the Moon, and the party is then sent there to learn the secret history of that moon/colony ship and the history of the Bantrid race. So if your party has played Dead Suns, and especially if one of them happens to be playing a Bantrid, this adventure is going to be a perfect continuation for you. Waking the Worldseed also gives you a full guide to the moon of Hib and the resident Bantrids, and those alternative racial feats that I mentioned earlier are obviously for the Bantrids. The second book in the series sounds really exciting to me as well, and also serves as a good continuation of Dead Suns. It seems to take place almost entirely on Absalom Station, as that Civ scout ship arrives and shuts down the fabled Starstone, leaving the station in a state of complete and utter panic and chaos. So the party has to bring the Starstone back online while dealing with all sorts of chaos. There's Aslanti spies taking advantage of the situation. There's confused spirits. There's angry outsiders. And all the while they have to gather enough allies to take out that invading alien vessel. And the last book sounds like something quite different, as the PCs find themselves in Civ bodies themselves, living out new lives as they explore the history of the Civ civilization firsthand. So once they break out of that simulation at some point in that third book, it's up to the PCs to break the AI behind the Civ ships before they're able to repopulate the galaxy. And then they have to decide what to do with the remaining Civs that are still being held in stasis after all these millennia. So let's quickly talk about a couple of the neat things that I liked in this particular adventure book, Waking the Worldseed. At one point in the story, the party encounters a friendly NPC who's just been unwittingly cloned in the underground facility, and the party is going to have to make that decision on how to handle that. It reminds me of that Star Trek The Next Generation episode called Second Chances, where they find this exact copy of Riker, and so the party has to make a choice, and it's going to have quite a few moral implications. There's another interesting encounter that takes place in Act 3 when the party meets a living Bantrid deep inside the Worldseed, but it's not a Bantrid at all, but an evil corporate demon called an Attico-demon. And Attico-demons are demons that scour the galaxy for corporate executives, looking for corporate executives to try to convince them to enact policies that will lead to greater profits for their corporation, but which will also lead to more accidental deaths. So this demon could accompany the players for quite some time before they realize what's going on. And the demon has a backup plan in case he's discovered. That's also a pretty interesting ruse. So while this book certainly has its fair share of combat encounters with interesting creatures, it's also chock full of interesting engineering and computer and social challenges for the groups who enjoy those aspects of Starfinder. So let's move on into final thoughts. This adventure seems great for players who enjoy diving into the archaeology and lore of Starfinder. You'll have the opportunity to learn the surprising history of one of the secondary tier Packed World races, which should enrich the game for everyone. And as the only current adventure path that goes up to level 20, this is your only official option to explore that high-level content. With existing Starfinder adventure paths either going from 1 to 6, 7 to 12, 1 to 12, and now 13 to 20, you have the unique opportunity to craft your own level 1 to 20 campaign with quite a few combinations of adventures exploring different playstyles and aspects of Starfinder lore, which I think is pretty fantastic. I appreciate that plot hooks and certain NPCs and organizations and locations are sprinkled across all those adventures, so there isn't much of an abrupt shift or distinct break between one adventure and the next, no matter how you string them together. If your group made it up to level 12 and then put that story aside for lack of any official content to keep playing, now's your chance to pull it off the back burner and continue those stories. Or if you just want a chance to dive right into high-level Starfinder play, there's nothing stopping you from rolling up a level 13 character and party and just diving right into Devastation arc. Though, I might recommend against using this as your very first Starfinder adventure path. Starfinder can get fairly complex even at early levels. In case you're curious, the adventure path after Devastation arc is a 6-chapter adventure path called Fly, Free, or Die that seems to take inspiration, as you might have guessed, from the beloved Firefly television show and the Serenity movie. So we'll see more about that adventure path starting in November. Waking the Worldseed has an MSRP of $22.99 for the print edition or $15.99 for the PDF. You can sometimes find it a bit cheaper at certain online retail stores or maybe through your local game store. It's also part of Paizo's Starfinder Adventure Path subscription. The associated Pawn collection is expected in February for $19.99. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them for me down below. To see our recent review of the Starfinder Starship Operations Manual, click the little eye in the corner of your screen. And if you haven't played a Starfinder game but you're interested, let me know in the comment section below what's holding you back. A good way to jump in is through the Starfinder Beginner Box, which you can see our review of in that little eye in the corner again. Devastation arc seems like a solid and exciting adventure path, and I'm really looking forward to that next chapter in September. Many thanks to our sponsor for this video, the Deck of Many, and their new Heckna 5e playtest. Heckna is a new campaign setting using 5th edition D&D rules that's set in a creepy carnival known as the Revelia. Your ringleader is the titular Heckna, who loves to fright and delight his audience. The free playtest materials give you a ton of content to explore the setting, including adventures and encounters and NPCs and monsters and magic items and more. And the full campaign setting is expected to come to Kickstarter on September 8th. To learn more and to sign up to download the playtest materials for free, visit heckna.com today. Thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, kindly give us a little thumbs up down below. My plan is to continue to review each new Pathfinder and Starfinder book that comes out each month, so be sure to subscribe to see that. We also review a lot of minis, terrain, dice sets, and other supplementary Pathfinder, Starfinder, and D&D material here at the Gallant Goblin, so hopefully there's something here for everybody. You can join the discussion over on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Otherwise, please stay safe out there, have fun, and I'll see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.